Continuing with retirement distribution strategies, here's an example of how the bucket strategy might be implemented. The first step is to create your assumption for annual after-tax living expenses over the next 3 years. Consider your household's current spending level and discuss any short-term anticipated variance, such as health insurance separate from an employer or large travel expenses to start your go-go retirement years. From what I've perceived, it typically takes a full year or two for new retirees to fully appreciate their new lifestyle and the income needed to support it. So, if you are retiring soon, review your previous year's expenses and make a round number estimate, giving yourself permission not to seek perfection with your spreadsheets. Also, your retirement spending may be higher than you initially anticipate, especially if retirement gives you additional freedom of time and energy. As a sidebar, one helpful question to ask yourself before retirement is, I know what I'm retiring from, but what do I hope to retire to? I recently polled over 1,000 retirees about what they missed most in retirement, besides their paycheck and employee benefits, of course. The answers surprisingly fell into the 4 C's. They missed the conversations with their colleagues or clients, the collaborations with their team members, challenges they're capable of solving with some autonomy, and contributions for a greater purpose. How might your time, energy, and financial resources support those 4 C's in your retirement? Creating a vision statement or describing your ideal week in retirement may also provide clarity, especially if you're a visual or tactile learner. Back to the bucket strategy example. Step 2 is to determine your fixed income sources. These often include Social Security, annuities, and other pensions. When we reference Susan and Steve's retirement savings options and employee benefits summaries, their only anticipated fixed income sources will come from Social Security retirement benefits, but not for over a decade from now. Moving from fixed income, step 3 is to estimate your variable earned and passive income sources. Even in retirement, these may include net rental income, deferred compensation after leaving a job or selling a business, or self-employed business income. Ironically, many retirees still earn some form of compensation moving forward, simply because they enjoy productive work that utilizes their skills and helps others. Don't be surprised if somebody asks you to be a part-time consultant at some point. In Susan and Steve's example, they aren't unable to continue working due to any physical or mental health issues, but they have intentionally decided to fully retire and eliminate all sources of earned income, at least for the next few years, as they spend more time with their family. Once you've outlined those first 3 steps, you can estimate your retirement income gaps and gross distribution needs, then head to your balance sheet to consider which assets you can turn into income moving forward. In this example, the family thankfully has substantial taxable brokerage balances to support their short-term living expenses, with opportunities to reallocate those investments with little or no tax consequences. With their substantial pre-tax funds, they have determined there are beneficial Roth conversion strategies available, prioritizing those conversions to fill up their taxable income rather than to support their short-term living expenses. They also want to earmark those estimated tax payments with their short-term expenses. They would prefer their Roth retirement accounts and HSA to benefit from long-term tax-free growth, with no rush to liquidate those anytime soon. And lastly, this family has no desire nor need to sell their primary residence to support their other expenses. Here is an example of their customized retirement distribution order of operations, which will look very different from yours. Starting from the top, to maintain their desired lifestyle and support their current living expenses, they are prioritizing their available cash and short-term fixed income within their bank accounts and taxable brokerage account number 1. For retirees who prefer this time segmentation bucket strategy, they may create 2 separate taxable brokerage accounts, one for short-term savings and the other for intermediate to long-term investments. Opening multiple accounts adds complexity, but it may actually provide additional clarity, as long as each account is playing a different role, but overall supporting the same person's objectives. Moving to the second box, if additional retirement income is needed beyond those distributions from bank accounts and their taxable brokerage account number 1, the Sampleton family can distribute income from their taxable brokerage account number 2. You'll notice this second box has an orange border, not a green border, which is a reminder that it's invested for growth and income, not short-term stability. Next are normal distributions from their pre-tax retirement accounts. If needed to support their current expenses, although that's not likely, they could begin substantially equal periodic payments, as I mentioned during the early retirement distribution lesson. Once their family's living expenses have been satisfied, they plan to implement Roth conversions. And as I mentioned previously, since they are under age 59 and a half, the conversion's tax liabilities will be satisfied by making estimated tax payments from their after-tax savings, rather than withholding from the conversions themselves. And lastly, they'll distribute their tax-free funds, but only as a last resort, hence the red border. To summarize, the distribution order of operations provides a general framework for how retirement income needs will be met over the coming year. And that framework will help to create the retirement spending plan, which further explains how their retirement paycheck will be created along the way. Starting at the top, their short-term savings, defined as income needed within the next 3 years, will be invested in short-term fixed income, including cash. Here is that taxable brokerage account number 1, which could be earmarked with an identifier, such as short-term savings. And next is their intermediate term bucket. The taxable brokerage account number 2 and pre-tax retirement accounts will be invested more aggressively. We notice this taxable brokerage account is more equity heavy due to its favorable tax treatment of long-term capital gains and qualified dividends versus taxable bond interest. And lastly, the third bucket, the Roth IRAs and HSAs are the most aggressively invested for long-term tax-free growth, since they won't be distributed for possibly decades to come. As they implement Roth conversions and their investment time horizon shortens, their Roth IRAs may be slowly de-risked to keep their total portfolio allocation aligned with their risk capacity. You may be wondering, when's the best time to rebalance investment accounts? Rather than basing it off of market performance, I personally prefer to rebalance in mid-November, which is when I can estimate the full year's income, expenses, taxes, and Roth conversion strategies, and it's nice to get done before the busy holiday season starts. The retirement spending plan can be visualized as a conveyor belt that moves every year to replenish the buckets, as you can see the blue arrows pointing up. Using this conveyor belt framework, additional rules may be applied, such as pausing the movement of the conveyor belt during recessionary periods. For example, this conveyor belt could be momentarily paused for up to 2 years as living expenses are supported solely by the short-term savings, without the need to sell any stock market investments when they're down. If you've ever seen the I Love Lucy episode, where Lucy and Ethel work at the chocolate factory, that's how I describe this retirement conveyor belt. Thankfully, you're in control on how quickly that conveyor belt moves, and it doesn't have to be in continuous motion, just once a year at the most. A time-based bucket strategy, combined with a recessionary pause, could further mitigate what's called sequence of returns risk, and dynamic spending rules may also be introduced. I prefer not to start by cutting spending. So this is just one example of how retirement distribution strategies could be implemented, and not a recommended strategy for you. One-size-fits-all approaches don't actually fit everyone, especially when we introduce behavior and emotion into financial planning. If you seek personalized guidance to help you measure twice, I recommend hiring a financial planner who specializes in your unique planning needs. Below the video, you'll find unaffiliated links to help you find a financial planner, with or without investment management. By the way, if you're looking for a financial planner without the obligation, expectation, or even the option to manage your investment accounts, taking away that pressure, these are called advice-only financial planners, and those are also included in those links.